August 20, 2026 at 9 a.m. The board meeting of the Oregon State Board of Nursing is now called to order. A notice of this board meeting was published by Rachel Prusak, Executive Director, in accordance with the open meeting law. If necessary, the board may also meet in executive session as authorized by ORS 192.660, subsection 1, ORS 192.660, subsection 2F and L, ORS 678.126, ORS 676.165, and ORS 676.175, subsection 1. Board member and staff stating that they are present and understanding the confidentiality of executive session and have taken steps to ensure that executive session's proceedings are not observed or heard by anyone not authorized by public meeting law, ORS 192.660. Is there a roll call by our secretary?
Yes. Oleniki Tolabola.
Present.
Margaret Hill, present. Claire McKinley Yoder, excused. Joni Callis. Here. Linda Stanich. Here. Rachel Dennis. Here. Felipe Nesta. Here. Rachel Mitzel. Matt Calzia.
Here.
There being a quorum present, I declare this board eligible to conduct its business.
Thank you. Do we have roll call for staff?
Thank you. Laura Blackhurst.
Here.
Patrick Owen.
Here.
Nicole Van Winkle. Selena Redberg. John Etherton.
Here.
Bill Young.
Present.
Pam Fontano. Andy Ritter. Present. Philip Fox.
Present.
Kimberly Goddard, present.
Thank you. Do we have roll call for the audience? Can you just raise your hand and your name? Thank you very much. So we are going to start off with on page 8. Give me 1 second. I have like 3 things going on.
We have an error message in our technology. Can we pause?
Yes, we can. Thank you. I'm trying to get my stuff together here too. Seems like my internet is. All right. My tablet is doing its thing because it's not loading up my public packet right now. But it looks like we're going to start off with the approval of the consent agenda. And that should be on page 8. If there are any questions on that. If there are none, does Chief of Staff want to put the motion forward for that?
Yes, thank you.
Hello?
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Hello?
Rachel, can you hear us online?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I think we're good with technology now, for now. So we're gonna go back to our first agenda item again, approval of the consent agenda from page 8 to page 15. Do we have a motion from our chief of staff?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's get it.
I move the consent agenda items be approved as presented.
So moved. Second. Oleniki Tobola.
Yes.
Margaret Hill, yes. Claire McKinley Yoder, excused. Jody Callis.
Yes.
Linda Stanich.
Yes.
Rachel Dennis.
Yes.
Felipa Nesta.
Yes.
Rachel Mitzel.
Yes.
Matt Calzia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll go over to page 16. Approval of the June 24th to 25th, meeting minutes. Are there any questions or modifications to that? If we don't have any, do we have a motion?
Indeed. I move the board meeting minutes be approved as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Oleniki Tolbola,
Yes.
Margaret Hill abstain, Claire McKinley Yoder excused, Joni Callis,
Yes.
Linda Stanich,
Yes.
Rachel Dennis,
Yes.
Felipa Nesta,
Yes.
Rachel Mitzel,
Yes.
Matt Calsia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next agenda item, we have administrative rulemaking. Who is presenting?
Our operations fiscal manager.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is John Etherington. I'm with the Operations and Fiscal Manager here at the board. I'm here to respectfully request that the board adopts permanent amendments to OAR 851-002-0010 and 851-002-0040, which are sections involving the workforce data fee. For some history and some discussion, on October 15th, 2025, the Oregon Health Authority held a rule hearing to discuss the necessity of raising the fee for the Healthcare Workforce Reporting Survey. This fee is paid by individuals applying to renew a license as specified by ORS 676410. The fee is intended to be a
Recording in
reasonably
progress.
calculated to reimburse program expenses incurred by the Oregon Health Authority. All workforce data collected by the Oregon State Board of Nursing is transferred to OHA in accordance with an interagency agreement. OHA has reported that since 2021, the program revenue has not fully covered their expenses. They determined to be raising fees from $2 per year to $4 per year, given that OSBN renewal applications and fees are calculated on 2-year cycles. This translates to a change from $4 to $8 per renewal for our applicants. Considering this development, we would like to amend these two OARs and adjust fees. For some more history, in November 2025 at the board meeting, the board approved initiating the rulemaking process by providing notice and opportunity for public comment and adopted a temporary rule. No public comment has been received by the board as of yet. Is there any discussion before I make a motion?
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
I have a question. Are other boards increasing their fees as well?
Yes, as far as I know, all workforce data fee boards are increasing their fees to coincide with the ORS 676410, which is also changing.
Thank you. Any other questions? I think we have a motion.
All right. I move that the board approves the permanent adoption of the proposed amendments to OAR 851-002-0010, subsection 4, and 851-002-0040, subsection 9, as presented, effective August 21st, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Oleniki Tolbola,
Yes.
Margaret Hill, yes. Claire McKinley Yoder excused, Joni Callis,
Yes.
Linda Stanich,
Yes.
Rachel Dennis,
Yes.
Felipa Nesta,
Yes.
Rachel Mitzel,
Yes.
Matt Calsia.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Next, we have our Dr. Laura Blackhurst.
Right, good morning, members of the board. My item is administrative rulemaking on page 47 of the packet. For your consideration today is permanent adoption of proposed changes to OAR 851-031, Division 31, which is our license requirements for nurses. As discussed at the June meeting, the proposed changes today are phase 2 of our work on modernizing the Nurse Practice Act following the passage of House Bill 3044. This phase of work was focused on just refining language for clarity and better operationalizing our processes. Since the June meeting, we held a public rule hearing on July 21st. No testimony was received at the rule hearing or during the public comment period. Happy to answer questions or bring a motion for these.
I have a question. On page 54, we're talking about initial licensure by endorsement. There's some additional language there that, or a country with comparable nursing education. How do we know what that is? That seems very open-ended.
That is a great question. So to determine comparable nursing education, anyone who's internationally educated would need to complete a credential evaluation, and then a credential evaluating service. What they will typically provide is an overview of all of the nursing coursework, the credits, how many hours are in theory or in clinical, whether that program is approved by the regulatory body in the home country, and sometimes they can even provide additional details if that individual was also licensed in that country. We are using the credential evaluation to determine comparable education.
Okay, yeah, thank you, because it says country, right? And so you could potentially have different nursing programs within a country that aren't necessarily substantially equivalent to that of a U.S. education.
Thank you. Any other question, or I think we're ready for a motion.
I will have two motions for this. My first is I motion the board approves the permanent adoption of the proposed amendments to OAR 851, 031, 0006, 0008, 0039, 0041, 0042, 0043, 0048, 0051, and 0055 as presented, effective September 1, 2026.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Oleniki Towabola,
Yes.
Margaret Hill, yes. Claire McKinley Yoder, excused. Joni Callis,
Yes.
Linda Stanage,
Yes.
Rachel Dennis,
Yes.
Philippa Nesta,
Yes.
Rachel Mitchell,
Yes.
Nat Calzia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
My second motion is I motion the board approves the permanent repeal of OAR 851, 031, 0065 as presented, effective September 1, 2026.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Oleniki Towabola,
Yes.
Margaret Hill, yes. Claire McKinley Yoder, excused. Joni Callis,
Yes.
Linda Stanage,
Yes.
Rachel Dennis,
Yes.
Philippa Nesta,
Yes.
Rachel Mitchell,
Yes.
Nat Calzia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
My third administrative rulemaking item, this is on page 76 of the packet. This is related to permanent adoption of proposed changes to OAR 851-062, Division 62, which is standards for certification of the nursing assistant and medication aid. These changes are also related to the phase 2 of work around House Bill 3044, also related to clarity and operationalizing our processes. Again, no testimony was received during our public rule hearing or during the public comment period. So happy to answer questions, bring a motion for this one.
Do we have any questions or clarity needed? I think we're good for a motion.
I motion the board approves the permanent adoption of the proposed amendments to OAR 851, 062, 0050, 0070, 0071, 0075, 0080, 0090, 0110, 0114, and 0116 as presented, effective September 1, 2026.
So moved.
Second?
And moved and seconded. Oleniki Towabola,
Yes.
Margaret Hill, yes. Claire McKinley Yoder, excused. Joni Callis,
Yes.
Linda Stanage,
Yes.
Rachel Dennis,
Yes.
Philippa Nesta,
Yes.
Rachel Mitchell,
Yes.
Nat Calzia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We're gonna move along to our operation fiscal manager.
Thank you. I'm here again to respectfully request that the board initiate a motion for proposed rulemaking concerning the Oregon Administrative Rules, Chapter 851, Division 002 of the Nurse Practice Act, which outlines agency fees. For discussion, on July 1st, 2026, the FBI notified all fingerprint agencies that they had completed a review of the fees charged for the fingerprint-based and name-based criminal history record check system. This review is required by the FBI to periodically review the fees it collects and recovers to recover the cost of operating this background check system. The FBI concluded that the current fingerprint fee charged by them will be increased by $3. Effective date of the fee change is October 1st, 2026. Upon this change, we are also notified by the Oregon State Police, which is our vendor for background checks, that they will be increasing our FBI background check cost effective October 1st, 2026 by that $3. FBI is increasing their fees of this portion from $12 to $15. Any additional costs in background checks from OSBN, and the vendor will remain unchanged. The increase in fees is applicable to all fingerprint background checks, including the individuals seeking employment with OSBN and board members. The fee in OAR 851-002-0055 is currently $58. With the increase, the fee will be changing to $61. For some history, the fee hasn't been changed since 2021, when the Oregon State Police increased it by $6. And at that time, the board also changed it from $52 to $58, passing on the fee in our fees. I'm open to discussion for the fees before I make the motion.
Question. It's October that it goes into effect. Will that obviously be public knowledge in the nursing on the online and so forth for everyone?
Yes, and I believe also one of my motions will be to initiate the rulemaking process so that we can provide feedback to us if there's anyone requesting information on that fee change. But yes, we would notify everyone October 1st.
Thank you. Any other questions? I think we're ready for a motion.
I have two motions. The first, I move that the board approve amendment of OAR 851-002-0055 as presented as a temporary rule effective October 1st, 2026.
So moved. Second. The motion has been moved and seconded. Oleniki Tolabola.
Yes.
Margaret Hill, yes. Claire McKinley Yoder, excused. Joni Callis.
Yes.
Linda Stanich.
Yes.
Rachel Dennis.
Yes.
Philippa Nesta.
Yes.
Rachel Mitzel.
Yes.
Nat Calzia.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. For my second motion, I move that the board approve staff initiating the rulemaking process by providing notice and opportunity for public comment on the proposed amendment to OAR 851-002-0055.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Oleniki Tolabola.
Yes.
Margaret Hill, yes. Claire McKinley Yoder, excused. Joni Callis.
Yes.
Linda Stanich.
Yes.
Rachel Dennis.
Yes.
Philippa Nesta.
Yes.
Rachel Mitzel.
Yes.
Nat Calzia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I think we're gonna move the predetermination off and do it now and then take a break after that.
Good morning, everyone. Prior to beginning an education or training program required for licensure or certification, a person who is convicted of a crime may petition our board for a determination as to whether a criminal conviction will prevent that person from receiving a license or certificate issued by our board. Board staff do not have authority to investigate a petitioner for predetermination, and determinations are based solely on the documentation provided by the petitioner. The petition listed below requires a board decision to approve or deny based on the materials provided. The outcome of these predetermination decisions will accompany any future application with the Oregon State Board of Nursing submitted by that petitioner. In front of you, you have a letter from the petitioner to review that will provide additional information.
We'll just take a few minutes. Thank you.
We'll add that nothing in our rule prohibits the board from denying licensure in the future for a reason other than this conviction of this crime or in the case of a misrepresentation of this crime. And then a determination under this rule is not a final determination by the board.
Thank you. Keeping in mind that we are in a public meeting, do we feel like we're ready for a motion? Okay, I think we're ready.
I move that based on the information presented, the board approve petitioner 710497's request for a predetermination in accordance with OAR 851-001-0111 as presented.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Olanihi Toabola,
Yes.
Margaret Hill, yes. Claire McKinley Yoder, excused. Joni Callis,
No.
Linda Stanich.
Yes.
Rachel Dennis,
Yes.
Philippa Nesta,
Yes.
Rachel Mitchell,
Yes.
Matt Calzia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Can we take a break to 9:45? Thank you. have Dr. Blackhurst. We'll move on to page 114.
Great. Oh, thank you. Yes, my first education item is on page 114. This is regarding continuing approval of Sumner College's registered nursing program. I may have a guest online. I should have their nurse administrator, Miranda Franz, online as well. There we are. All right. So Sumner College's pre-licensure registered nursing program underwent a survey in May 2026. All standards for pre-licensure nursing education were found to be met at that time. We did provide the program with some recommendations just for ongoing quality improvement, but no compliance issues were identified. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have about this survey.
I might have just missed this. I do see that you noted that the first BSN group graduated this year.
Mhm.
Do we know what their pass rate was like for their NCLEX?
I do not recall that information offhand, but I remember during the survey sharing the news that they were meeting our standards.
Thank you. If any of their admin knows the answer to that question, would appreciate it for their pass rate for the first group.
Hi, this is Joanna Russell. I'm the president here at Sumner College. Good morning.
Good morning.
Our first graduating class, when the first quarter pass rates came out, we had 2 left to test. It was around 77%. Our second cohort passed as well and graduated, so we have 2 full cohorts, and that one's around 88%. I believe Laura could get the final number, but I think we're around 83% right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Board President, I also wanted to go back and clarify. It looks like I did include a number on page 117. At the time of the survey, I had reported an 85% first-time pass rate.
Thank you. Any other questions? I think we might be ready for a motion for that one.
My motion for this is going to look a little different than usual. Sumner College was in the process of getting their new BSN program approved when Division 21 changed last year, and so some of our processes changed. So my wording for this motion is a little different than usual. But I motion the board grant continued approval for Sumner College's pre-licensure registered nursing program, including full approval of the BSN track with future surveys aligned with the National Nursing Accreditation Cycle.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Oleniki Toabola,
Yes.
Margaret Hill, yes. Claire McKinley Yoder, excused. Joni Callis.
Yes.
Linda Stanich.
Yes.
Rachel Dennis.
Yes.
Recording stopped.
Philippa Nesta.
Yes.
Rachel Mitzel.
Recording in progress.
Matt Kelzia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We can move on to your next agenda item.
My second agenda item will be on page 121 of the packet. This is regarding Klamath Community College's revised end-of-program student learning outcomes. We are joined by Dr. Dorothy Neufeld online. She is their nurse administrator.
Hello.
So Klamath Community College is seeking board approval to revise their student learning outcomes. As they noted in their materials, they've been working with the Accreditation Commission for Education in Nursing around better differentiation of the RN and practical nursing program outcomes. I have a very minor revision to the outcomes you see in the packet. As you can imagine, as we've been working with Dorothy and her team at Klamath, they are also working with their accreditor, and so I have a slight modification. So the program outcomes in your packet on page 124, RN program outcome 6. We need to delete the first 2 words and start that outcome at the word fulfill. On page 125. Does that make sense? Nope.
Could you repeat that?
Absolutely. So on page 124, the RN program outcomes, outcome number 6, we need to delete the first two words. So we delete analyze and, starting the outcome at the word fulfill.
Thank you.
Yep. And then the second modification is in those practical nursing program outcomes. Again, it's item or outcome number 6. We just need to delete the words, the first two words, delete describe and, start the sentence at function.
For those of you that have dealt with ASIN, one verb is preferable, and unfortunately, we didn't notice till after I'd submitted that we had 2 verbs in number 6 for both, so we went down to the most important verb for each.
Mhm. So we are happy to answer any questions or bring a motion for this item.
Do we have any questions? I think we're ready for a motion for that one.
I motion that Klamath Community College's pre-licensure practical and registered nursing education program outcomes be approved as modified.
So moved. Second?
Been moved and seconded. Oleniki Tolabola,
Yes.
Margaret Hill, yes. Claire McKinley Yoder, excused. Joni Callis,
Yes.
Linda Stanich.
Yes.
Rachel Dennis.
Yes.
Philippa Nesta.
Yes.
Rachel Mitzel.
Yes.
Matt Calzia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. I will continue on with my ASIN application now, so much
Good luck.
appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. For my third agenda item, I'm going to bring up a guest. And when you need to speak, just turn the mic off. Thank you. So I am joined by Dr. Esther Gravis. She is the nurse administrator at George Fox University. And to clarify, this education item is on page 126 of the packet. We are discussing George Fox University's application for initial approval of their psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner program. This is step 2 of the new program approval process, and if granted, we would be allowing George Fox to admit students to this program beginning fall 2027. Their application addressed all the required components that were listed in OIR 851-021-00102. Again, we are happy to answer any questions you might have about their proposed program.
I just have a comment. Thank you for the detailed information you provided and for staying with that doctoral degree.
I'm just trying to scroll through and make sure I didn't have notes towards the end. It was very detailed. And it's just like, in my head, I'm like, I guess it's a doctoral program, so yes. But thank you for all that. Do we have any questions or comments from any other board members? I guess we are ready for a motion for that one.
I motion that George Fox University's application for initial approval of their advanced practice psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner program be approved as presented.
So moved. Second?
Been moved and seconded. Oleniki Tolabola,
Yes.
Margaret Hill, yes. Claire McKinley Yoder, excused. Joni Callis,
Yes.
Linda Stanich.
Yes.
Rachel Dennis.
Yes.
Philippa Nesta.
Yes.
Rachel Mitzel.
Yes.
Matt Calzia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Board President, I'm going to bring up a different. Board President, my guest joining me today is Dr. Mary Lopez. She is the Dean, the Dean at Western University of Health Sciences. So my first agenda item begins on page 285 of the packet. And here, Western University of Health Sciences is applying for initial approval of their pre-licensure registered nursing program. This is also a step 2 application, which again would allow the program to begin admitting students starting in fall 2027. Their proposed program is a master's entry to registered nursing. And again, their application included all of the required components. So we are happy to address any questions about this item.
I'm probably going to ask a very silly question that is in the packet, but the packet got a little confusing because some of the details were from like the prelim application. So I had a little mental redundancy, but what is your anticipated first cohort again? Yes. And it looks like you do have letters from, I think, Samaritan Health Services for placement. Would all 25 be going to Samaritan, or are you planning to kind of have them in different locations?
Be at different locations. Samaritan will be our first ask, and they've been very open to us, saying that they'll be able to meet our clinical needs. But we believe that community placements are important. There's a variety of clinicals that our students will be going to.
And how soon after admission would their placement need to occur?
We're going to start them in our first semester.
So hypothetically, your first semester would start when?
We'll start.
When? What?
When? August of 27.
Okay, so there's still kind of a lot of time to get placements issue figured out for them.
Board President, this is a common challenge at this stage in the development. These facilities won't write
Fully
written
commit.
agreements with a program that doesn't have approval. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from other board members?
Another question. You're going to be space sharing with physical therapy program. So you also mentioned that you'll be sharing offices. How does that work?
That's the best part of this whole thing. We have an existing campus in Lebanon. We have a medical school, a pharmacy, or physical therapy school, and that physical therapy building has 44,000 square feet. It used to be a furniture store. It's big enough for 2 programs. In fact, it was built for 2 programs. And the other program that was supposed to be up there was occupational therapy. So it was supposed to be a building of physical therapists and occupational therapists. But for many reasons, that occupational therapy program didn't take off. And so the university says, well, we have this space, and nursing raised their hands and said, we would love to be in Oregon. Our clinical partners are asking for us. Well, why don't we partner with physical therapy? And it's such a natural pairing between nursing and physical therapy. And so, of course, office space is very sensitive, but they had enough offices for the occupational therapists and the physical therapists. So to put nursing in those offices we didn't displace anybody. Yeah.
I have a question online. Sorry. So it looks like at the end of this program, students graduate with a master's in nursing, but no specific like population focus. I know with undergraduate, you can't get financial aid for doing a second bachelor's degree. Is that the same for doing a second master's degree? If like, because there's so many different entry pathways to the nursing workforce, there's associate's degree, bachelor's degree, and master's degree. If students graduated with a master's degree from your program, entered the nursing workforce, and then decided they wanted to be a midwife or CRNA, would they be eligible for the same funding at that level of education that they?
So we've had a successful master's entry program for 25 years in California. And most of our students do have FAFSA numbers, and they get financial aid for getting a master's degree. We take people who have a bachelor's degree, they come into in something other than nursing, they come into our program and they become a pre-licensure nursing program, right? It's a master's degree entry. And so they have federal aid for that, financial aid for that. If
So
those
most,
students,
oh, sorry.
if
Go
those
ahead.
students want to go on and become nurse practitioners, we have a certificate program. So they don't get another master's degree to become a nurse practitioner. They get a certificate and are eligible to sit for boards and become nurse practitioners. We also have a program that goes from MSN to DNP. So nurse practitioners who want to get a doctoral degree and become nurse practitioners, because that's a different degree, they again qualify for financial aid.
Okay. Thank you for answering that question. So would you say the majority of your students are coming to nursing for second careers?
Yes. And they're everything, engineers, artists, physical therapists that didn't want to be physical therapists, you know, kinesiology. I know, it's amazing. It's any kind of degree, and then they come back rather than getting a second bachelor's degree or going into an ADM program, they come back and get a master's degree as they learn how to be a nurse.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Do we have any other questions or comments? I think we're ready for a motion.
I motion that Western University of Health Sciences application for initial approval of their pre-licensure registered nursing program be approved as presented.
So moved. Second. It's been moved and seconded. Oleniki Tawabolo.
Yes.
Margaret Hill, yes. Claire McKinley Yoder, excused. Joni Kellis.
Yes.
Linda Stanich.
Yes.
Rachel Dennis.
Yes.
Felipa Nesta.
Yes.
Rachel Mitzel.
Yes.
Matt Kelsia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Board President, my fifth education item begins on page 386 of the packet. This is regarding a substantive curriculum change request from Tillamook Bay Community College's registered nursing program. Online, we have Dr. Tiffany Slover, who's their nurse administrator, and also Dr. Alex Tripp, who's one of their nursing faculty. So Tillamook Bay Community College is proposing to add a paramedic to RN and an LPN to RN bridge, two pathways to their established registered nursing program. These bridges would allow up to 8 additional students per path, and these students would be entering into the second year of the RN program after completing some specialized transition coursework. Happy to address any questions, as I'm certain our guests would be happy to address them as well.
I think first clarification I wanted is that Tillamook is trying to add 2 separate pathways at the same time.
Yes, this would be both a paramedic to RN bridge with a specialized transition course and an LPN to RN bridge with a specialized transition course.
And this might be a question for their administrator. Is the plan that those 2 pathways would kind of take similar classes, or how is that going to work?
Good morning. Yes, there's one class that's different for the LPN and the paramedic that addresses their specific scopes and the gaps that we need to cover with them. Then they merge together for the rest of the courses in that term. So it's one that's different, but everything else, like for the skills and such, will be together.
I have more questions. So if my memory serves me right, the other bridge program was recently approved.
I believe you may be recalling Lane Community College that recently had a paramedic to RN bridge.
Not the paramedic. Like, I think did Tillamook just get an approval for a program recently?
Tillamook did just get full approval. I believe that was November. We might have discussed it at the February board meeting.
Okay. And how are the students doing currently in terms of pass rate?
Our students are doing very well. Our first cohort, we reached the overall pass rate needed. And our second cohort that just graduated this past June. We are waiting on a few more to take their tests, but it looks like we should not have any problem meeting the first time pass rate. But of course, we won't know until we have 2 more left to test.
So you're in the second cohort. Your first cohort, how was the first time pass rate?
We met the overall, I don't recall the exact percentage off the top of my head, but we did meet that metric.
Yes, I also don't have the numbers in front of me, but when we surveyed in November, their first cohort was meeting our NCLEX standards.
I think my only concern is you are on your, that's why my brain was like trying to remember if they just recently got approved. You're on your second cohort and not everybody is tested in your second cohort. Things is still probably settling in with that program, but you're about to incorporate 2 different pathways into it now. Like, do you feel like you're able to accommodate all of that and the changes that might be going on?
Our program, so we have our third cohort is just getting ready to start their second year, and we're actually starting our 4th cohort this coming fall. And we are in our brand new health sciences building. So we do have plenty of space. We have a new sim lab that gives us a lot of room and flexibility to meet their clinical and skills needs. And our curriculum is pretty settled. So it shouldn't be, we don't foresee any issues creating the transition term that's in the packet and then folding these students in with our second year students.
Thank you. I will pass it along right after I make this last comment of so much things going on versus focus on this group and making sure they're doing well might be something to weigh versus just let's extend and do more different things versus let's be great at this focus and then we can extend when we're fully settled. But I will see if any of the other board members have questions or comments.
I have a question. First of all, thank you for all the information you've submitted. And gosh, we need good healthcare workers on the coast. And so are you finding that your graduates are staying local or are they moving into more urban areas?
It's rather split. We do have some people that are staying local, but of course some have plans to go elsewhere or they want to work in a particular type of nursing that takes them outside of Tillamook. But we have a really successful EMT program at the school. And so a lot of those students are looking to progress through things. And so we really wanted to be able to give the opportunity for paramedics to be able to audit in. And we very frequently get questions from LPNs, whether or not we allow them to audit in and like skip the first year. So we've had, I believe, 3 LPNs who have had to start our program from the very beginning, which feels very unfortunate because it's a lot of duplication for them and a higher cost.
Thank you. Other questions? All right, I think we're ready for a motion.
I motion that the proposed curriculum changes to Tillamook Bay Community College's pre-licensure registered nursing program be approved as presented.
So moved. Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Oleniki Toabola,
No.
Margaret Hill, yes. Claire McKinley Yoder, excused. Joni Callis.
Yes.
Linda Stanich.
Yes.
Rachel Dennis.
Yes.
Philippa Nesta.
Yes.
Rachel Mitzel.
Yes.
Matt Calzia.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And next we have our agenda item on page 450 for University of Portland exempt request.
Would this be like a temporary request, or would this be like, are they asking for a temporary request just to find somebody that meets the, has the right qualifications?
No, they are asking for a permanent exception.
So if we gave them an exception, that would open up the ability for like a rule change then?
I think that in the future, the next time we do engage in rulemaking in Division 21, we'll do a reanalysis of all the current best practices in education. And given this national task force has said that this is appropriate, it might be something we look at in the future. Giving this exception now wouldn't necessarily change our rules at this time, though. If I can add also, University of Portland currently has a family nurse practitioner program, but they are planning to develop a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner program. And so the individual they have identified would be overseeing both of these two programs as like a graduate program director. And one of the things they noted in their request is for this individual to oversee both programs. Technically, by our rules, they would have to have APRN national certifications in both roles, which is very difficult to find in one individual.
Thank you. Do we have questions?
I just wanted to say, I thought they submitted a really nice letter, really articulating their rationale, so.
Thank you.
Since this is like a potentially permanent thing, like we're not gonna have to come back and like vote on it again in a year or something, like, oh, we still have to have approval for this or something, I don't know.
Oh, like how long does their exemption last? Is that?
Yeah, like, is it a permanent one, or are we gonna have to like re-vote on it or something? Right?
I think they're just exempt
You're just exempt, okay.
Yeah.
from that.
I think you could probably grant it for a period of time.
Which would be safe, so that way we don't have other programs saying,
Yeah.
Yeah.
hey,
You wanted to do a time parameter, or even for like this individual, they have a qualified adult nurse practitioner.
I think it would be easier to grant an exempt for the individual with a time frame, so that way if they have to swap the individual, they have to get another approval for the other individual.
I just feel like we don't really have enough information, like why the rule was there in the first place, and like what the effect the exemption will have, like not just for this college, but for other colleges that are having trouble recruiting. This is definitely a situation where I wish Claire could speak to this, but she's not here today, so I just feel like I don't understand enough of why that rule is there in the first place and what it definitely serves and who it protects to be able to offer an exemption today.
I believe I can provide some background on the history of the rule. So that has been in our rules historically for nurse practitioner, all APRN programs. Historically, we just required that if you were running an APRN program, that you had to have the same certification as the program. When we combined Division 51 into Division 21 last year, we really just pulled that standing rule over without modifying it. And at that time, we were not aware of this recommendation that existed from this national organization and their task force. I think if we had been aware of that recommendation, it probably would have been part of our discussions during rulemaking at that time to include it.
I'm gonna have us take a break till 10:20, so we can get legal on the phone regarding this.
I
Yeah.
may I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Which administrative rule gives us the authority to grant the exception to a rule? I don't know all the rules, but that would be my one question.
That's why I want us to take a quick 5 minutes so we get legal on the phone. So we will return back at 10:20. can I just, all right, that feels good. I just had to get it out of the way. So for the University of Portland exemption request, what we are going to do, just to make sure we get all the questions and the ifs, buts, maybes kind of better clarified, is we're going to pull this off the agenda today and potentially bring it back, ensure that we have all the questions and things smoothed out better before we go ahead on this. And I appreciate everyone's feedback and thoughts on this one. So thank you, Dr. Blackers.
Of course. Then my last item for you all today is actually a presentation. So if you could give me a moment to get that pulled up.
Take your time.
Thinking about it. All right, let me make sure the clicker is working. Go back now. All right, we'll stay there. So my final education item for you today is a presentation of the 2025 annual report. This is a survey that is administered by the National Council of State Boards of Nursing. It is a 50-question survey provided to our programs, and the questions are standardized. So they are the Oregon programs get the same questions as every state that participates in this National Council survey. And so the questions tend to be very broad and ask about program operations, everything from your nurse administrator to their qualifications, your curriculum, your faculty, and ultimately, the National Council will evaluate Oregon's nursing programs against their key quality indicators, which I'll go through a little later in this presentation. So this survey is administered to all Oregon LPN and RN programs for each NCLEX code they have. We received 43 responses in 2025, and this represented 29 different education institutions. So some schools may have both an RN and a practical nursing program, so they complete the survey twice. And we have a couple schools also that might have multiple different RN tracks, and so they might also have different NCLEX code and respond multiple times. So that's why you see 43 responses, but only 29 institutions. One thing to note is that APRN programs are not included in this annual report because the survey, as it's been designed by the National Council, they made the decision to not include APRN's education programs in this survey. When we get the results back, the board staff, we evaluate the program responses and evaluate not only what is going on in our education programs, but also, again, ensuring that based on their responses, it appears like they're in compliance with our standards for programs in Division 21. So I'm going to provide just a really high-level overview of our education programs here in Oregon. Please interrupt me if you have questions as I talk through it. Okay, so a very high overview. Here's the 43 different programs represented in this survey. As you can see, we have a small number of practical nursing programs. Most of the programs in this survey are RN programs, a very large number of associate degree programs. We have some bachelor's and accelerated bachelor's, and currently we already had one master's entry in nursing program approved in Oregon. On the next slide, this information about programs is relatively unchanged from last year. However, our programs continue to be predominantly rural mostly publicly owned. And at this point, 60% of the programs have national nursing accreditation. They are required to obtain that as of last year. This survey does not capture all of those programs that are like in process towards accreditation or in candidate status. We've seen a lot of movement in that area of our programs. It's not really reflected in this survey because this survey only asks, do you have accreditation? Yes or no. But we know most of our programs are now working on it.
I have a question. Yeah. Does this survey capture all of the online programs in Oregon also, or are these just programs that are physically in Oregon?
So this would only be the programs physically in Oregon because they are the only ones that we are regulating. However, any online school, if their home base is in a participating state, they're probably completing the survey as well. They would just be reflected on a different state's results. Okay. No. Okay, I'll just look to you. NCLEX pass rates. So for 2025, what we saw, we look at the first time pass rates for nursing programs. We see that for our Oregon graduates, the practical nursing candidates are performing a little bit below the national average. Our registered nursing candidates are performing a little bit above the national average. Our OAR requires that if your program is not accredited, you have to be meeting at least an 80% first-time pass rate. So these numbers are still definitely above our standards for programs. And one thing the National Council is very clear about is that you don't want to look too closely at a single year of data. It's much more important to look at program trends over time. And so when we get these annual survey results back, one of the things we do look at is the individual school NCLEX performance, and we do outreach to the programs if we're noticing like a downward trend or we have concerns. Our nursing faculty, we are estimating now a little over 1,200 nursing faculty across all of our education programs. As you can see, the numbers between full-time, part-time, adjunct, and employed by the program are relatively close. There's a good number also who are adjunct not employed by the program. Those are typically like your clinical faculty employed at the facility they're teaching in, like an academic practice partnership. This year, we did see a decrease in the total number of nursing faculty in Oregon. However, NCSBN changed how they capture the faculty numbers this year. And so I'm not confident that the number of faculty did actually decrease. This might just be a change in their survey process. So it's something I'm keeping an eye on. But it does look like, on paper, it looks like a decrease from last year. In terms of the faculty themselves, our faculty remain predominantly master's prepared as their highest degree earned. As you can see, we have a very small number of BSN prepared faculty. Our rules do allow that if they are enrolled in a master's program or they have oversight from someone who has a master's or doctorate degree. And then as you can see, we have doctorally prepared faculty in a variety of different roles, whether it's a DNP, PhD, EdD, or some other doctoral degree. Next slide, please. In terms of clinical and simulation, our programs reported an average of 555 hours of direct patient care. There's a big range. The low end of that range is a short practical nursing program. The high end of that range is a bachelor's RN program. But we are seeing sort of this mirroring of national trends where programs are gradually decreasing the numbers of direct patient care hours nationally. Part of it is availability of faculty, part of it is availability of clinical sites, and part of it is more utilization of simulation as well. Simulation, our programs are using an average of 81 hours. Again, the range here is pretty big. It's 0 to 258. I will say the 0 and the 258 are both sort of an outlier when you look at the numbers, but that is the range. We are estimating a state average of about 14.6% of clinical experiences being simulated for students. The OARs allow programs to use up to 50% of simulation, and so there's a lot of potential for growth in this area, especially as, again, there continue to be challenges around clinical placements. We do know that a couple of our schools are much higher than this 14.6%, but truly the majority of our schools are on the lower end of simulation use. Next slide. In terms of program enrollment and capacity, for the academic year 2024 to 2025, our schools produced a little over 2,200 graduates. This current academic year, the programs reported a little over 6,000 applicants and a little over 2,900 admissions. So we're still seeing that big gap between applicants and admissions. One thing that is important to note is that this number is a little hard to track because any one individual could be applying to multiple different programs. This is kind of a known national issue with tracking applicants to programs, but we do still see a gap between applicants and admissions. In terms of our program's capacity, our programs are enrolling a little over 5,400 students with a capacity of 6,000. Again, this could be that these programs maybe don't have faculty or placements to admit fully, but this could also reflect just attrition from the program. You know, students drop out, students don't progress academically, and so that's why you sometimes see that gap between actual currently enrolled students and what the capacity is. The average student to faculty ratio in their theory courses, on average, it's about 28.7 students to 1 faculty. We do have some programs that run quite small, and so we have an 8.5 student cohort size, but also some programs on the larger end. So we have one school that has a 65 or 64 students to 1 in their theory courses. And then for clinical, our schools are reporting an average of 7.8 students to 1 faculty in clinical. Next slide. All right, so the National Council of State Board of Nursing has these 10 evidence-based quality indicators for nursing programs. And as I mentioned at the start of this presentation, when they give the survey results back to us, they are flagging programs that might not be meeting a quality indicator. Couple caveats to this is that just because something is flagged, it doesn't mean there's a problem. National Council is very clear that they intend these quality indicators to be helpful guidance for us as regulators to maybe look at a program or have a conversation with a program. Like, a flag does not mean there is an issue here. The other thing about these quality indicators is that some of the things that are an evidence-based quality indicator are actually still allowed within our rules. So a couple examples of this are a good number of our programs get flagged because they have less than 35% of their faculty being full-time. That's allowed in our rules. The last 2 quality indicators, RN program directors with less than a doctoral degree, it's allowed in our rules. And same with, again, that RN program full-time faculty with less than a graduate degree. As we saw a couple slides back, we do have a number of BSN faculty, but we have those additional pieces of oversight. Like you have to work with a nurse educator who's fully qualified. So as I go through some of the flags that came up for our programs, again, just know that some of these flags are allowed and it's not an issue with the school.
I have a question. Do they have like outcomes data on when it's BSN prepared faculty versus predominantly graduate prepared on?
They do have data. I don't have it in front of me to directly reference, but their recommendation is that faculty be prepared with a graduate degree. I think this is an unknown challenge, is just the availability of faculty with a graduate degree, and why some of our schools do employ faculty with a bachelor's degree. Okay, next slide. So these are the indicators being flagged by our programs, and I present this view first, just so the board has an awareness of some of the things happening with our schools around the state. As you can see, the most common reason schools got flagged this year on the annual report is that they experienced organizational change. That means someone in the college leadership changed positions. That could have an effect on the nursing program. It doesn't necessarily mean it does, but again, these flags are intended to give us a clue to check in with programs. The second most common reason programs were flagged is over on the far right. It was faculty being a BSN prepared. As I shared, that is allowed within our rules. So even though it's flagged, it's not an issue. On the far, sort of in the middle, our third most common flag, again, faculty less than 35% being full-time. It's a flag, but not an issue. And then the last one I'll highlight before I move on is the far left, programs being not accredited. We do still have a lot of programs that are not accredited, but like I shared, this survey is really only asking yes or no. Are you accredited? They're not really capturing that a lot of our programs are now actively working on accreditation.
That was actually one of my questions, like where are we at with regard to Oregon programs moving toward accreditation?
I don't have the actual numbers, but I have been in communication with just about every one of our programs on their current status, and most of them are now either fully in candidate status or sort of applying to get candidate status for accreditation.
Yeah. Do you have a time frame?
I mean, the time frame is in the OAR, so we tell them they have to have it by 2029.
Thank you, Dr. Blackhurst. We're going to pause just because we have public forum right now for.
But we do.
Do we? Okay, so if we don't have anyone waiting, we're going to go on. If someone comes on, please let me know.
Perfect.
Thank you.
And I will be quick because I have one slide left. Perfect. Next slide, Brandy. All right. And then I present this view, I think, instead of presenting it as, why are programs being flagged, this is actually showing the number of flags for each program. So as you can see, most of our programs only are flagged for 1 or 2 items, sometimes 3 on this annual survey. And again, this could be something that's perfectly within our rules. It doesn't mean there's a problem. We do have a couple programs that received a little bit more flags. And again, every one of these programs, we're sort of aware and in conversation with them about some of the challenges they're experiencing. One of the programs in particular just had a really bad year, hard year. Organizationally, but we do use this survey tool to work with our programs and really understand what's going on with them. Okay, I do have one final slide. Closing. So data collection for the next year will begin in January 2027. One of my aims this coming year is to develop a separate survey tool for the APRN programs. Unfortunately, NCSBN is not moving the direction of adding that to this survey, but I want to be able to present that information to you all as well. So we'll work to develop a separate survey for the APRN programs, but happy to take any other questions.
Thank you for this presentation. It's helpful.
Of course.
Because sometimes you see bad indicators, but doesn't always mean that it's bad. It's just something for us to kind of look out for.
Exactly. And I will add that I think the programs also get a report if they're being flagged. And for some of our programs, sometimes it triggers a little bit of reflection on how they can improve. And so by the time I get the results and begin reaching out, they're already addressing.
Awesome.
Do you know
Any-
if, sorry,
Please
do you
go
know
ahead.
if any of our programs are utilizing exit exams? That predictor of whether or not they're going to pass the NCLEX the first time? And if so, do you know if that, if they don't pass the exit exam, are they still allowed to test?
Great question. So many of our programs do use exit exams. Our OARs do not allow them to use it as a reason to deny graduation. So they're commonly using it to help support students as they're graduating and studying, but it is not a barrier to graduation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Blackers. It's always fun. And since we're still in public forum, we'll still be in public forum till 11:15, just in case we have anybody else. I almost feel like we need to label Dr. Blackhurst's session.
I agree. Madam President, I think we need to do the script for public forum.
Oh, yes, since we're officially in it. Thank you. Welcome, and thank you for joining our public meeting today to share public comments. It's August 20, 2026. Public forum is from 10:45 to 11:15 a.m., and each person will be allotted 5 minutes. Open forum is a time for members of the public to make general observations or present items of general interest. Open forum is not an opportunity to make requests to the board, to discuss past, present, or future investigations, or to discuss matters currently under review by the board. Individuals wishing to make a complaint should refer to the board website. The board would not deliberate on any issue or request raised during the open forum. The board president has the authority to stop an individual's comment if the board president determines that the comments go beyond this directive or as necessary for efficient and orderly conduct of this meeting. The statements made or opinions provided by open forum participants are not the statements or opinions of the board. know we're waiting for 11:15 for public forum, but I feel like we didn't introduce Patrick Owen. And this would be a good moment to actually introduce him.
Yes.
But do you want to introduce yourself?
I was announced, but yeah, this is,
You are announced, not introduced.
my name is Patrick Owen. I'm one of the policy analysts. I joined the board staff, I think July 7th was when I started, so it's just been just about 2 months at this point. My background is in public policy and regulatory compliance. I had about 11 years working with the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission prior to joining the board staff here. So my role continues to be in that area, and I'm rapidly learning everything I can about this agency, and my current focus is on crosswalking the 60s, the various divisions relating to the nurse aid and medical aid education programs with the federal requirements and our obligations to the other agencies involved, ODHS and OHA.
Thank you. Now we all know Patrick. There's been a lot of questions like.
Nice to meet you all.
Can I just add, Patrick's jumped in with both feet. He immediately started working on so many things, and you're going to see a lot of him. He's incredibly well versed at bringing together very complicated ideas and making it easy to digest. So, been really pleased with his contribution so far.
Thank you. So we're going to have Dr. Blacker's section and Patrick's session.
Yeah.
I'm just going to label it as that. And I think you pretty much know us by the names in front.
I definitely, I can see.
We can introduce ourselves.
It's nice to have met everybody, and yeah, I'm looking forward to working with everybody on the board.
Thank you. Anybody has anything for Patrick? Welcome. Is there anybody else we haven't introduced that is new? Okay.
Who all are our policy analysts now? Is it just the two of you?
No.
There's also Michelle Bell, who's currently on leave.
And Dr. Wickenhagen still. Yeah, 4 policy analysts. Our policy team, we also have Nicole Van Winkle, we have Selena Redbird that support our policy analyst, and we also have Amanda Musin, who's a policy analyst too, who does a lot of our work there as well. We have an entire team.
I ran into Michelle out in the wild a few months back.
And I think by like 11:15, we'll take a break. Okay.
Now, but it is not quite here, so. Ice cream and lollipops. The Great Greek Mediterranean today.
And who needs hummus when you have jam back here? So you could put it on your peanut butter.
Brandy, we still don't have anybody online? Lovely. All right, it is 11:15 a.m. and we still have nobody on the public forum, so we will end timing for the public forum. Board members and staff will go pick up lunch and be back in this room at 11:30 for our lunch presentation. Thank you for joining us. So we'll go ahead to our next agenda items, the lunch presentation, and I'll let our presenter introduce himself.
Thank you very much. Nothing like being stared at during lunch hour, so we'll make this as exciting as I possibly can. Really pleased to be here today. My name is Bradley Guy. I oversee business development and client relationships for EBOS. EBOS is an ethics assessment. I come from an ethics background. I started under the Olympic Committee in anti-doping, and so I did that for 16 years, oversaw the entirety of the intelligence case for Lance Armstrong, among others. And everyone always asks me, what is the difference between athletic ethics and healthcare ethics? And I say it's a different uniform, but it's the same ethics problems, right? And so that's what I'm really here to talk to you about today is how we can quarter turn our process and look at disciplinary through an alternative lens instead of just simply checking the box, assigning a CE course, and expecting behavioral change to come from that. There are alternative solutions out there, such as EBOS, that I'm excited to introduce to you today. And I hope that you're able to see that. I go around presenting to boards similar to this all the time. Even, in fact, yesterday I was at the NCSBN conference in Chicago, and there's a consistent message that I hear preached every day, and it's we're here to protect the public. And I always challenge the boards, and I say, what does that mean? And what do you do to protect the public? They say, well, we handle disciplinary or we handle remediation with a CE course. My challenge to you is that enough? Are we doing enough to where we truly are protecting the public and we're trusting these nurses to go back into the society and, quite frankly, treat our own family, treat our own friends? That's what we're trying to do. So when they come to that fork in the road, after they've made that violation or even before, they make a better informed decision because of something we have put in front of them. That's ultimately what it means to protect the public. So really excited to talk to you guys today about what EBOS is. This is our footprint. We are with over 150 regulatory boards, numerous states, in over 41 states and 37 industries, being nursing is one of our largest states. So happy to pass along any referrals. I've seen it completely transform not only how licensees handle disciplinary action, but how boards handle disciplinary action. Basically arms you with a tool to get a true understanding, and I call it peel back the layer of the licensee's true ethical competency. So instead of them sitting in front of you and saying, I'm a changed individual, and 8 months later, they're right back in front of the board for another issue, that's what we're ultimately trying to avoid. So just want to go through some numbers on why I'm so passionate about being here today. So 1 in 4 employees have been witnessed or involved in unethical behavior in a professional setting. 60% of misconduct is actually never reported. So think of those mountain of cases that you guys deal with. It could actually be significantly more than that. You heard me talk about repeat offenders. So repeat offenders is 19% on average among boards. People say, oh, that's not a big deal. That's 1 in 5. So that's 3 of you guys standing up at the table. And quite frankly, that's 3 too many, right? So that's the goal. What we're really trying to do is drive that behavioral change, drive that change so when they come to that fork in the road, that they do make that better informed decision. Passive learning numbers. So if you look at a ethics pre-recorded webinar or any webinar really out there, the average retention rate is about 8 to 10%. We had a case study of a client of ours on the dental side required every one of their disciplinary licensees that were under an order in 2024 to go through an ethics webinar. AI tracked their facial recognition, 30 minutes. Does anyone want to take a guess what the average amount of time somebody was live on screen paying attention was? Yeah, 3 minutes and 4 seconds, right? And so remember, these are the same courses that we're assigning, expecting to drive change. And having these licensees come in front of the board and saying, I've learned so much, I'm not going to make these mistakes again. And my challenge to you is, let's not just take their word for it, let's assist them, right? I think so many of these licensees and nurses that come in front of these boards think the boards are out to get them and the investigator didn't like them and that they have this victim mentality. Boards are here to support. And if we can hammer that message home and show that we're here to assist and educate and really there to help them back to that path to licensure, that's really what we're all trying to do. Boards always ask me what the difference between CE and EBOS is. CE is going to check the box of did they attend, where EBOS is going to check the box of did they understand. That's the key delineation there. So I always use the analogy with ethics as the boiling pot of water. So usually people don't pay attention to ethics issues until the water boils over, alarms go off, sirens go off, and people throw their hands up in the air and they say, now what do we do? How do we get to this point? When in fact that a lot of these issues had started months and years before, right? So it's always a trickle-down effect. Think of somebody, maybe it's copy and pasting into an EMR or not inputting data. That's the first instance of the ethical dilemma. It's not ultimately when the nurse, has a medical diversion problem. We see it all the time where a licensee, I was just in front of a board meeting 3 months ago, a nurse was there in the investigative side, and she was trying to help out a friend. Her friend had back pain. The nurse said, I can help you out. I can get some medicine from the hospital. Gave the medicine to her friend. Friend overdosed and died, right? All because of a simple crack in the door saying, I want to help my friend. And that's usually where it starts. And so this drift curve is a perfect example of that, and one that I firmly believe in. I've always related back to this in my career. I'm not going to read through all of them, but just know that there's a process to this, right? Usually at the time they come in front of the board, we're already at number 5. So it's how do we identify these behaviors earlier and earlier in the process? I'll just start with justification. It's usually somebody saying, oh, it's not a big deal. Maybe it's a slight issue, a slight transgression that nobody will have noticed. Repetition, they then repeat that behavior. To normalize it, where they say, well, everyone else is doing this, or my friend's also doing this in the EMR, or inputting data, or forgetting to input data, or maybe it's even a simple transgression as forging a CPR certificate or forging a CE certificate. We had a dentist come to us last year, forged a CPR certificate for a number of years, and the dentist had a procedure with the patient, didn't check athlete or the licensee's past health history. The patient flatlined, and the dentist didn't know how to give CPR, and actually ended up passing away, right? So where was that ethical problem? There's a number of ethical problems along that way, but the first was failing to, or having that forged CPR certificate, right? So then it goes to concealment, where people try to hide it. That's usually where the investigation starts, or when boards first find out about it, and then you get the violation in case. So ethics are really handled on a reactive front, and so our goal is to be proactive in that standpoint, and how can we identify those behaviors before they get to the board? Or alternative to that, when they come to the board, we put procedures and a product in front of them that's going to ultimately drive that behavioral change. So what is EBOS? EBOS is a scenario-based ethics assessment that is occupation and violation specific. It's developed to help regulatory boards make informed, confident decisions after a license violation, whether that's on part of a remediation order, disciplinary agreement, anything of that nature. So this is not going to be your multiple choice guess-a-thon. It's not going to be your true-false where they can figure out the answer. It is a true essay assessment. This is taken at a Prometric testing center local to the professional in Oregon. The licensee had all phones, glasses, watches are all removed. I've added glasses. We had a physician in the Midwest show up 3 weeks ago with meta glasses and an earpiece hidden in his ear canal trying to get answers to an ethics assessment. So if that's not a blatant failing of an ethics compass, I don't know what is. Just goes to show you what type of shortcuts people are willing to take. It is a proctored assessment, so this cannot be taken at home. It has to be taken at a Prometric testing center. It's all done on a computer, and there is never a cost to the board or a contractual requirement to the board to use this product. It is all paid by the licensee, of which then the results and score report calls are handled directly with EBOS and the board. The entirety of the process takes roughly 5 to 7 business days. That's from when they take it to when the results are sent directly back to the board. There is no guessing. There is no, now what do we do? We had a licensee try to send a forged score report back to the board after we had sent the score report to the board. So we see everything. And at the end of the day, we want to work directly with the board in partnership so that the scenario that they are required to answer is not only to that nursing specification, but also to the violation specification as well. So it almost turns into this reflective writing exercise. If they misspell a word or forget a period, they're not going to fail the assessment. It is truly the content that is going to drive the passing score. They are allowed an hour to complete the assessment. We do see multiple nursing boards sign multiple assessments. We have 5 domains, which I'll get into in a little bit. This is how the process would work from the board down to the actual issue of EBOS, the issuance of EBOS in a board order. So the investigation happens where the compliance or concern is identified. Then the board reviews and issues the disciplinary decision to where part of that board order, EBOS, is included. The licensee then completes that assessment. Results are then sent directly back to the board. We identify where the proficiencies and inefficiencies of that licensee's responses are. And at the end of the day, it gives you that tool and you're educated. So when the licensee comes in front of you, you're able to say, you know, look, you were unsuccessful in ethics assessment, or alternative to that, you passed an ethics assessment but showed a blind spot in these areas. How can we help you address those? These are our 5 assessment types. We have over 700 unique scenarios, all coming from prior board orders. So these are all real-world scenarios. These are not going to be your Tom stole a Starburst from the grocery store. How is he punished? These are going to be nurse diversion, medical diversion, harassment claims, improper treatment. Maybe it's sexual misconduct. We even have cases for DUI, anything of that nature. I've yet to see somebody come to us with a scenario that we do not have a scenario for. So we handle something from the most minor of details to the most major. Keep in mind that people think of ethics as fraud-focused, and while that is true, ethics can leak into a lot of other transgressions. So just keep that in mind. These are our 5 domains: boundaries, unprofessional conduct, professional standards, substance abuse, and fraud. Keep in mind that these are going to be where the scenarios originate from. So if it's tailored to boundaries, an issue, improper relationship with a patient, or if it's unprofessional conduct, maybe it's a harassment claim, or professional standards where somebody is practicing on an expired license, for example. We do have all of them that are covered. So this is how our testing process works. The board would order the EBOS assessment to be taken. The licensee would then come to our website, register for an account, and then they would pick which time and which location is most convenient for them. They would then go and take the assessment, again, allowed 1 hour to take the assessment. They can take multiple at the same time, so back to back if they so choose. We can even take it out of state. So if you're closer to a major city, out of the state of Oregon, you can absolutely take it there as well. Results are then sent directly back to the board within 5 to 7 business days. And again, we work with you to understand where those inefficiencies and proficiencies are of that licensee's response. We never publicize the licensee's responses, and that's on purpose. We want to protect what it takes to pass the assessment, but we will share and peel back the onion on why they were failing or why they were passing the assessment. This is a sample scenario of what a licensee would see. I'm not going to read the scenario. The 4 prompts that they're required to answer are on the right. The introductory opinion statement is just going to identify what is right and what is wrong about the scenario. We want to make sure they can understand right versus wrong before we really dive into this. Consequences. So if you ask somebody under an ethical violation, what are the consequences? The first thing they're going to answer is usually about themselves, right? So while that's important, we also want them to understand who the indirect parties are affected. So is it going to provide further scrutiny among other nurses? Is it going to provide further scrutiny in the community, for example, their family, staff, the hospital system or doctor's office? The public protection, we want them to understand how it affects and compromises community safety and welfare. So could you have illegal narcotics in the community or insurance premiums going up, for example, things like that. We want them to see the whole picture of this and not just how it affects them. And then finally, solutions. We want them to self-reflect and identify how they can fix their behavior. And so you can see how this almost turns into a reflective writing exercise for the licensee. So at the end of the day, they can truly understand how their actions affect others. And that's really how we can drive behavioral change. Passing score, our passing average is 68%. We are not on a standard academic bell curve. About 90% of people that take our assessment are under a board order. We do have people that take it proactively or when changing states to show that they're an ethically sound individual. But the 90% of people are usually under a board order. So I say the 68% just from the standpoint that we are not a simple check the box assessment. We do have a number of people that fail the assessment, which I'll get into next steps on the next slide. This is our rubric. I don't expect you to be able to read this through this entirety of the rubric. The 4 sections and prompts, we just went over our top for going from left to right. And then looking on the side is the scores of 1 to 4. We're looking for a 12 out of the 16 maximum, and as I said, we were looking at about roughly a 68% pass rate. So we had a number of our clients come to us and say, we understand licensees are going to fail, now what? And so we introduced a ethics consultation course to where an independent partner of ours will have a one-on-one virtual education session conducted on Teams or Zoom. It is intended to be mirrored to their actual domain that they are taking. This is not a course on how to pass EBOS. This is a course to shed light onto where possible blind spots are in their ethical understanding of professional practice. Again, tailored to the domain, tailored to specific violations, and then the board will get a full written description of the licensee's behaviors and understandings and exchanges of that course. Again, paid by the licensee. Usually we see this course issued in one of two ways. One is in the event the licensee fails, and secondly, and then after that, they'll be required to retake EBOS. Alternative to that, we'll see it on the front end where a board will say you have to take the educational course and show that you did the remediation before you can take the EBOS assessment. So there's a number of ways you can go on it. Additionally to that, we do conduct score report review calls as well as provide a PDF full written response of where the licensee was proficient and inefficient in their response. So the 4 sections where they passed or maybe where they failed certain sections. We do hold those score report calls to truly make sure the board and staff and investigators are understanding of what the actual score report means and not just here's your tool, good luck in using it and utilizing it. So we are here to help. This is not a cookie cutter type product. We evolve with boards. We're using a number of different settings. We have some boards that use us on every single disciplinary case. We have others that is a more specific and targeted approach into certain cases as well. The educational course is $300. That is also paid by the licensee. Again, I want to go through costs. We just talked about the educational course. Each assessment, when I say assessment, think of scenario. So if you have multiple scenarios, it would be the 400 times the number of scenarios. Never a cost to the board. No contract or long-term commitment is required to the board. You're able to refer cases when they are needed. It is a tool that you can just have in your toolkit. This is not meant to replace anything else you have in your process. It's simply meant to shine light on another tool that you can allocate and use. It is scalable to your board's needs. We do offer multiple assessments, as we talked about the educational side of it as well. We are incorporating a lower violation assessment, which is going to be more on the multiple choice side and a lesser cost. We expect that to roll out early part of next year as another alternative as well. We also have boards use this as a proactive measure with a random mix of people going through a licensee registration process. So it's not just so reactive to ethics. It starts to get into that proactive nature of it. So I've talked way too much, but how does EBOS help you? So I hope you've seen just the effect and impact it can have among boards. Ethics is a tough cookie to crack. A lot of people just, they say, I go to conferences all the time and I have this board behind me that says, come talk to me about ethics. Probably not the best sales pitch to go out there. But people come up to me and they go, I don't need to talk about ethics. I said, let's just have a conversation. I don't have an ethics problem. And it's not an attack, right? It's just simply an educational piece. I had a client come up to me and say, we're an ethically sound board. We don't have ethics issues. 6 months later, she called me and she said, we now have an ethics issue, right? And so keep in mind that there's always ethics issues around. It's just a matter of how we tackle those. So EBOS provides an objective assessment of the licensee's ethical decision-making, moral reasoning, critical thinking. It identifies the specific strengths and deficiencies of a licensee. What are their blind spots? It's okay to understand what blind spots are. What's not okay is to make them continue to be blind spots. So if as a board you can further educate them, then that's great. It supports consistent, defensible disciplinary and licensing decisions. It's actionable recommendations. So we sit with you and provide those next steps and recommendations and what to do. We are with you every step of the way so that you understand what that looks like. It promotes public protection, so it ensures licensees are prepared to return to safe and ethical practice. And the ultimate goal is that they're never sitting in this seat right here under another investigative disciplinary order. And I've personally seen how it can transform not only how boards handle disciplinary action, but how licensees handle disciplinary action. I had a dentist call me 3 weeks ago and say, you know, I'm just sorry, I didn't understand how my actions were affecting others, and it's because of EBOS that I feel more prepared and more inclined to go back to practice. And then called me a week ago and said, I made a really good ethical decision. I didn't know who else to call, but I would never have made this decision prior. So that's ultimately protecting the public, and it's ultimately is what's going to drive behavioral change. If anyone has a desire to talk further about ethics, feel free to reach out. That's my number. That's my email. Again, I just really want to thank you guys for listening. I know it's you guys have a packed agenda, and I really appreciate your time and dedication in protecting the public. It's a tough spot to be in, and it's not a celebrated position, but it's an important one. And just know that it is valued as well from our side of the equation. So thank you, and appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions? Okay.
Thank you for being
We'll go from right to left.
So since they go to a Prometric test site to take the exam, is this testing available on demand? Like, could they do this every day?
They do. So it is available 7 days a week, during business hours, after business hours, obviously on weekends as well. So the nurse can choose which day, time is most convenient to them. If they were to sign up for an account today, they could be taking it. It's Thursday, so they could be taking it as quickly as Saturday if they wanted to.
And then you said that it's $400 per scenario. And so how many scenarios does an average licensee do?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it really is dependent on the board. We see some cases have one. We see some cases have 3 to 5. It really depends on the egregiousness and negligence of the violation is what I'll say. Usually more significant violations, we'll see that number creep to 3, 4, 5. More minor transgressions, we'll see maybe 1 or 2, for example. So it really depends. And I'm happy we have a bunch of handouts that I can provide to Brandy, and she can circulate after on recommendations on which domains to assign, which violations fall under which domains, things like that. But on average, I'd probably say is what we see is roughly around 2.
And then that's the 60 minutes, 2 scenarios completed in 60 minutes.
So each scenario, they're allowed 60 minutes. So if they have, so if they have 2 assessments or scenarios to take, they would be given 2 hours to complete it.
And then lastly, how does the licensee get feedback on their score or their performance? Or
Yep. So they get a score report. They're not gonna. They get the same written PDF score report that you get. The score report call is only handled with the board. So they do get feedback on where they passed or where they failed on each section. They're not going to show this is why you failed or this is why you passed. And alternative to that, if they have to retake the assessment, they're given a new scenario. So it's not going to be the same scenario that they retake. It's additional. It's one of our other 700 that are going to be applicable to their violation.
Thank you. Yes, please.
So I had a couple of questions. The first one was, you mentioned that it's that these are defensible. So have you had many cases where someone, I'm sure there's a lot of different processes, but for us, we can order, a notice, and then they can contest the notice, like with the DOJ. Have you had like a lot of scenarios where someone has like contested the notice and like sorry, I'm having trouble like trying to get that out, where like it's gone to like the DOJ or whatever appropriate thing, and they've said, yes, this is defensible, or if they're, like this is a really good example, or, kind of like not so great.
So we have we have a psychometrician on staff that handles the test validity. So each question goes through test calibration exercises that are through a whole statistics process. There's actually a report that I can send you that goes through what that process looks like. It has held up in court, so it is legally defensible, and we're happy to bring our psychometrician in if we need to talk about the viability of what that looks like. And he has done that before, and through he's published 2 different articles, which I'll provide as well, on the efficacy and just the structure of the assessment, to include the biases and to include also how it's an objective assessment and rather just the dynamics of how that works in creating the assessment.
And then my other question, also related to the test centers, quick look on the Prometric website shows that there are only 4 testing centers in Oregon. And Bend, Eugene, LeGrand, and Portland. That doesn't cover a large portion of our state. For those people who might be in Southern Oregon where there isn't a testing center except for 2-3 hours away, is there are we trying to expand the testing centers, or can they do a different test? Because I would hate to, if it was me, I would hate to drive 3 hours to take, a 1-2 hour test, and,
Sure.
It's a lot.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. So Prometric is the largest proctored testing center in the world. And so there's, quite frankly, we're handcuffed by what their capabilities are. And so at the end of the day, we do have licensees all across the country that will drive 2 hours to do the assessment. And I wish that there was an easier transition or bridge to that. But the short answer is they just have to find the closest testing center to them. Keep in mind they can't go across state lines, so it doesn't have to be in Oregon. And for example, we have people in northern Idaho, and they go to Spokane to do the assessment. So we do have a number of other boards in Oregon that do use EBOS as well. And they, I would assume, face the same issues, and they still require their licensees to drive to the testing center. So there's always ways, and they're trying to incorporate new testing centers, but unfortunately, we're handcuffed in how we can help develop those areas.
Thank you. Thank you. Board Member Matt.
Just curious, who uses the rubric to do the assessment of the final product? Is that a human who lines up the answers with the rubric and does?
Oh, I got you. Yeah. So we have a grading panel of 10 individuals, all coming from prior ethics backgrounds and regulatory backgrounds. Work with our psychometrician on an annual basis to go through calibration from the grader perspective to ensure consistency. And we have 2 graders assigned to each licensee. Names and states are anonymized, so they don't know the violation. They can't look up the violation. They then both grade the assessment. If there's a break or if there's a tie in one of the sections, our psychometrician and senior grader will be brought in to break that tie. So, yeah, it is all human graded. Great question.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask my question, then back away, because this table, although I'm by myself, it has a mind of its own. It keeps talking to me. I'm glad that I have it all by myself. So I have a lot of employees that actually English is not their first language. Is that something that's offered with the testing that you have? And then I have a second question.
Sure. So we do handle all types of accommodations through the ADA. So we work through those as they come in. That's not a problem. We deal with a lot of different occupations as English as a second language, and I'm confident enough and I've been told that as long as if they have strong enough English to obtain a medical license, then they're not going to have an issue passing the assessment either. It's important to point out that grammar and spelling are not heavily weighted in this assessment. It is truly going to be the content that drives it. So there is no translation of the assessment. They are required to answer in English. But again, we have had a number of people show concern, but I've yet to see someone fail to pass the EBOS assessment because of that barrier.
And then the second part of that is, it sounds like the process is to test, and then there's the mediation part, the educational part. Does everyone retest, and is that presented to, or is it just they took that and that's completion, or is there another retest?
Yeah, so usually boards will require not only to take EBOS, but pass EBOS. And so there would be another retest after the education to ensure that progression has happened of ethical understanding.
Board Member Kellis, you had a question?
Do you know recidivism rates for your, product versus PBI course or, other ethical courses?
Yeah, so just to give an example, PBI is really going to be on the educational side, so they don't offer an assessment on their product. And quite frankly, I think that if their instructors were sitting here at the table, they would recommend EBOS on top of PBI to ensure that that ethical understanding has happened. I think the recidivism is extremely difficult to measure. I think every company is going to tell you that same question. We have our psychometrician that's publishing an article on recidivism in Q4 that will show the impact of how EBOS has had among boards. We also have a dental board that has shown 75% decrease in repeat offenders by using EBOS, which is pretty significant. They use it on every single one of their cases, not just targeted cases, but they've seen a 75% decrease in repeat violators than they had prior to implementing EBOS.
Thank you. I feel like everyone asked all the questions I had listed, except one.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of times with different testing and different assessment in terms of ethics, we look at the writing level of what grade level they're written in to ensure that the same test it's taken by people that have different educational background and it matches. At what level is your ethics test rated?
So it's a great question. It's all part of the test creation process. All of our questions are through our psychometrician, and the calibration are going to be on the same educational level. So we've had CNAs take our assessment, we've had NPs take our assessment, and anybody in between. So we feel confident and comfortable that no matter what license that a board oversees, they are going to be educationally proficient enough to take and pass the assessment.
So you're not fully, do you know what level the grade, like what grade level is the assessment written at?
Again, what grade level specifically, I probably could not answer. I think that I think people obtain nursing degrees at all different levels. So I would assume a relative answer to that would be realistically some sort of associate's degree educational level.
Thank you. It's really helpful because we have CNAs
Sure.
that don't have that much education level at all, and it will be a good thing to keep in mind.
Yeah.
The other question I had is, I know you had mentioned for the scenarios it's $400 per scenario. For the remediation, are you charging per remediation section, or are you charging just as the remediation is one price?
The remediation is one price.
Okay.
Yeah. And just to be clear, it's not required. You don't have to do the education. We simply offered it because we had a lot of boards that were requesting it, so we wanted to put something else out there.
So, yeah, just to follow up to that. So that was one of my questions. Like, if someone fails, then what's the next step? It comes to the board. I mean, then it seems like your remediation classes is the next step.
Yeah, so in the event, if they failed, what it would usually arm a board with is that they need further understanding of ethical competency. And so whether that's remediation through us or remediation through another avenue, that's usually the next step, is that they need further development in their understanding of their ethical and moral competency. And maybe it's a critical decision or critical thinking, decision-making issue. But it gives the board an idea of, okay, they took an educational course. We need some further development here, and it's going to be able to not just simply say, "Here's the educational course I completed," and then you move on. You're able to get that. You peel back the layer a little bit to get that further understanding. It's simply a tool, and it should be it's a true assessment to give the board an understanding of the licensee's true capability at the current stage, is what it really is.
Do you think that the hour that's allowed for the test, have you ever had anyone that has not? And I just remember back to when, don't judge me, I took my nursing test written. And so in that time frame, have you ever had somebody that didn't complete it because of that and the time allowed?
Yeah, it's a great question. So our average time of completion is right around 42 minutes. I'm sure it has existed where somebody has been going up against the time, but we have found that the hour is more than adequate for a huge majority number of the licensees that take the assessment. Usually it's about a paragraph to 2 paragraphs per section of those prompts. And being that it's completed on a computer, they're able to not get through it quickly, but they have an adequate enough time to do it.
Looking at the scoring rubric, you said that a 12 is passing, so in theory, someone could get a 4 in 3 categories and then a 1 extremely insufficient in another, and that would be 13, which is still passing. Is that, or is it like if you get, like, when we would get the report, would it say, you know, they did outstanding in these 3 categories and extremely insufficient in the 1? And would that still be a passing score even though you got like an extremely insufficient?
Yes, it would still be a passing score. And we would, and that's where that score report call would be so critical in giving you the understanding of why they were successfully passing in there. I've never personally seen 4 in 3 sections and a 1 in another. But, you know, it's not uncommon for us to see maybe a 4, 2 3s, and then a 2 where they maybe passed or they failed one section, but showed significant knowledge in other sections. It's all just a part of how the assessment is built. But yes, that is, I guess in theory that could happen. And in that score report call, our psychometrician and lead senior grader would be able to demonstrate and fully explain the inefficiencies of that specific section and where those red flags may be and blind spots may be.
Thank you. Any more questions? Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you for
It was
allowing
really
me to be
nice.
here, guys. Appreciate it.
So I have another agenda item, and a motion also. So as many of you are aware, our executive director notified us of her resignation, creating a vacancy in that role. Based on the vacancy and the board's authority to appoint an executive director under ORS 676.306 subsection 2, I motioned the board to appoint Kimberly Goddard as the interim executive director effective August 21, 2026 through November 19, 2026.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Oleniki Toobola,
Yes.
Margaret Hill, yes. Claire McKinley Yoder, excused. Joni Callis.
Yes.
Linda Stanich.
Yes.
Rachel Dennis.
Yes.
Alipa Nesta.
Yes.
Rachel Mitzel.
Yes.
Matt Kelzia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. And I think that concludes, before I conclude, do we have anything else last minute? Awesome. That concludes our meeting. Meeting is adjourned at 12:07 p.m. and our next meeting will be on October 14th and 15th.